Welcome to Breaking Bread in Brookland. This is a new series that I'm beginning. Brookland is my home. We're at my home. And I've been living here for about 4 years, in DC for over 25. And I thought it would be nice to get to know people both in this neighborhood as well as that live in the District of Columbia. Find out a little more about them, what makes them tick, why DC is so special to them, why Brookland is so special to them. And so I've decided to do some coffee chats that we call Breaking Bread in Brookland. And this is our inaugural interview, and it is with my dear friend Tim Kime. Tim is a resident of Brookland and has been for how many years?
20 years, yeah.
20 years, so he has about 16 years on me in this neighborhood. We both love this neighborhood.
We do.
And we live not far from one another, and so I want to find interesting people for you all to meet, and Tim is going to be our first one, our guinea pig, if you will.
Good morning, and here, cheers, right? Cheers to Brookland.
Cheers to Brookland. This isn't exactly breaking bread, it's more toasting coffee, but that's okay. We like the alliteration. So, Tim, tell me a bit about you. Tell me where you're from, how long you've been here.
Okay.
And why is Brookland so special to you?
Well, like you, I'm a Midwestern boy from Ohio. That after I graduated from college many moons ago, I wanted to start a career in a place that was exciting and vibrant. My parents were not throwing me out of the house, so I knew I could start somewhere, and always had a fallback position, and had been to DC on a meeting with my parents, fell in love with it, and never looked back.
Wow. And you have a house here in Brookland?
I have a house and a rental house here as well.
Okay. Now, Tim, full disclosure, my interaction with Tim began in 2010 when I participated in the leadership program, Leadership Washington, Greater Leadership Washington. And Tim was the executive director at the time and was for how many years?
15.
15 years. So I got to know him then, but really got to know him well here in the neighborhood when I moved here 4 years ago. And so we've had a blossoming friendship ever since.
Amen. Absolutely.
So tell me your career history here. I know Leadership Greater Washington was a big piece of it.
Right.
Tell me more about that.
Well, good coffee, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I love the mugs. I think like is Brookland?
Where would Brookland be? It'd be like right here.
Exactly. Well, I am grateful to live here in DC and in Brookland. I think it's a special place. My career has primarily been in nonprofits. I am a mission, passion kind of driven person. And I think my career really started a number of years ago when I worked at the Board of Trade. And that was all about celebrating all the good things happening here in Greater Washington. And so I got a chance to work with amazing folks that were more than just about making sure the business community was strong, but also that the community and those who live here had every opportunity possible. And that's what got me started, and again, I've never looked back. I really love this community.
Well, so you left Leadership Greater Washington, which coming from somebody who was at City Year for 11 years, you identify your full person with that organization.
Right.
So leaving there must have been a big kind of shuffling up of your professional and personal life.
It was.
What was that like?
Well, it was exciting. It was scary. It was jumping off the high dive board into the deep end, full body, and hoping that I would come up. And the opportunity of having one chapter close, I said I can always go back to leading a nonprofit. I've done it for a number of years, in addition to Leadership Greater Washington, almost 20 years. And I said, let me figure out what gives me joy. And as you know, I love art and upcycling and bringing out the best in people. And I said, let me try it. And here I am. I'm doing it.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think that certainly people are always thinking about what their vocation is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people probably they never find it. Some people struggle to find it. Some people are lucky enough to find it.
Correct.
And I love the quote that, you know, your vocation is the intersection between your greatest need and sorry, the world's greatest need, and you're.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean, but it's an alignment of
It's an alignment.
things.
The
Yes.
vocation is really the intersection between the world's greatest, your greatest desire with the world's greatest need.
Right.
And
right.
it seems like unexpectedly, maybe,
Right.
you found that. And tell me
Right.
more about your work now, your consulting practice, your art.
Right. Well, I think that the universe supports what you really want to do. And as you said, Jeff, sometimes we don't know. We do things because we feel like we should, or the next step, I've been in this position, so the next step would be let me step up to a bigger organization, a bigger staff, a bigger budget, a bigger impact, and then life sometimes says, no, this is where you need to be. And I have always been an artist, but never publicly said it, or I would, when I could get a vacation, I would take art classes around the world. And I said, you know what? I don't want to just do art when I can squeeze it in. How do I bring it out in me and others in a way that is full time, that is transformative for me, that really brings out the joy that I have? And here I am.
And what's the name of your organization?
So one of my companies is called Transformation Junkies, and that's where I upcycle, kind of a trash to treasure kind of thing. I have a great partnership with Goodwill for obvious reasons, where I'm finding things that are secondhand that I turn into functional works of art. I've used that as a metaphor that we've done with team building, also with coaching, for folks to look at what could be in an object and also in them, and bringing out its potential and also bringing out their potential.
That's beautiful. Just to stick on LGW for just one last second, because there'll be a lot of folks from LGW probably watching this.
Yes.
Just amazing experience I had
Yes.
going through it, and built some lifelong friends and colleagues through it.
Yes.
What impact did the people that you met during your time at LGW have in you to this current day?
Every day I'm connecting, like today, with a Leadership Greater Washington person. It is an organization that works because it develops deep connections with folks. There's trust built, there's unique experiences, so there's a kind of a bonding that happens, and you and I shared a unique experience. While we were in different classes, you and I could relate to what this LGW experience was like, and so it truly is the gift that keeps giving. I'm so grateful that I went through as a selected participant before I was CEO, and then as CEO, so I could shepherd the experience and share the experience with folks like yourself, because I got how transformative it could be.
Yeah, and it certainly was. It was for me as well. Let me shift gears.
Sure.
DC is a vibrant community. It's has a very strong single population, a very strong gay community. You happen to be both. What's it like being single in DC, and what are your aspirations on the personal level?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think the thing that I love about the DC area, the Greater Washington area, is it is a diverse community in every regard, in terms of thought, in terms of education, in terms of experiences. Growing up in the Midwest, I was surrounded by people that looked and sounded and acted like me, and that was fine. And so to come here and meet folks that have had just these amazing life experiences have inspired me to grow and expand and try things that I never thought I would, or have conversations that I never thought I would. Being a single person, there are a lot of other single people here, and so it's not like a stigma, like there's something wrong with you. It's just another dimension of who I am. In terms of the gay community, what I love is that I never would have thought that gay folks could legally get married. And to think that that's happens here, when you and I have gone on walks in our neighborhood to see all the ways that the gay community is celebrated, and it's an affirming place and no one bats an eye, which is really, really exciting.
It is. It is. We've talked a lot about what excites you about Brookland, what you really appreciate about the District of Columbia. Brookland, by the way, is in northeast Washington, D.C. It was named after Colonel Brooks back in the late early 19th century. He married into money, and was the dowry. Part of his dowry was land in this neighborhood. Him and his wife built a mansion called the Brooks Mansion, which still exists to this day. It's actually inhabited by DC TV, public access television. Nance Rickard, I'm coming for you next.
Cheers, Nance.
And so it was traditionally, I think, in probably the decades before this, a African American middle class neighborhood. There's been a lot of gentrification going on in Washington D.C. and Brookland's no different. There's real estate has gone up. It's still very diverse, which is part of what I love about it. Does anything concern you as you look at areas of the community that gentrification has really taken hold, and what might happen as development continues to come to this part of the community?
Great question, Jeff. I love that question. What drew me to Brookland was the yards, the eclectic mix of homes, the people, the walkability. I'm just a short walk to the metro. Now it's bikeability with a lot of the bike lanes that happen. It feels just a really wonderful community. It feels like a neighborhood. It's always felt that way. When I've gone other places, other neighborhoods, I know my neighbors, or I see my neighbors. Maybe it's because we have sidewalks where we can walk our dogs and see people on their front porch, like here we are. Great example. The one thing I think of my neighbor, Mrs. Johnson. She is maybe an 85-year-old African-American woman and has been in Brookland. She raised her kids here, and I want to make sure that she and her family can stay here as long as they want and don't get priced out or taxed out or whatever, and that she cannot enjoy all the magic that's happening here in Brookland.
Yeah, I hear that, and it's true. It's a question I've always had, which is, change is going to happen. And you're seeing it happen certainly in this neighborhood. If you walk down streets, you'll see houses that have been redeveloped or are being redeveloped. Right. And you always want to hope that there's a way to maintain the diversity of all different types of folks that live here, because that's part of what makes Brookland magical.
Exactly. Well, I just want to add, Jeff, one thing that I also notice is Mrs. Johnson, great example, is her house is a wonderful, cute cottage. It's surrounded by my house, a Victorian, and another house, a Victorian. I would anticipate when she moves out and sells many years down the road that a developer will come in and knock her home down and put a big property there. And I don't like that. I would like to be able to preserve some of the uniqueness of Brookland. And while it might be better for taxes and revenue to have a big house there, the fact that her house is unique in of itself, I would want to somehow preserve that history.
The big elephant in the room here is we are in the midst of COVID-19.
Yes.
And things are starting to open up around the country. DC is still officially closed, but is soon to start phased opening, I believe, next week. This has been 10 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, of being quarantined at home. And I, myself, have been trying to keep busy with anything from cooking to yard projects, and now interviews on my porch. So what has been the COVID experience for you? And any reflections on life or yourself because of it?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. It has been a spiritual growth opportunity that, to me, I have wanted to look for the good in this, and part of what I have appreciated is the uniqueness of it is that the whole world, you realize how we really are connected to folks on the other side of the globe or in other countries and other communities, that we really have so much more in common than what you might be greeted by on the surface with someone's race or gender or age or national background. We really are one, and that's the message that I've taken away. I also have focused on now. When I look too far down the road, I would have freaked out that we were closed down. But you know what? If I can look on the mat at the specialness of today and what is the gift of today, then really amazing things happen. And that's one of my takeaways, is being really present to what's happening right here in front of us.
And you partially answered this question I'm about to ask you, but when things go back to normal, whatever that looks like, what do you think you'll do differently than what you did, or how your day-to-day and life looked like pre-COVID?
Great question. I think that as a driven person, as an ambitious person, as a high-energy person, I didn't realize how much I was on the move all the time, and in an unconscious way. Oh, I have a client meeting here, I've got to do this, I'm all over the place. And this has helped me to think, well, what's really important? And maybe sitting on my dear friend's front porch having a real conversation is the gift, as opposed to, Jeff, I got to go because I've got to cross town to go to a client meeting. Maybe I could do that meeting by Zoom or in a different way, or call you up and say, hey, client, let's go for a walk and talk, as opposed to sitting in a restaurant or having coffee inside versus outside like this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it certainly makes me think about how, if you were to have 100 pennies to spend during the course of a day, how am I spending those pennies?
That's
right?
great.
Not necessarily from a financial perspective, but time perspective.
Absolutely.
And it does make you reflect on what's important, from friends to family, and maybe it's really fostering the close community you have, and not just always have to be all over the place. I mean, I think I probably have done a lot of that as well. Always out and about. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think we want to do stuff, and it's human nature. We've got people, or I know I'm one that I'm going to say yes to everything. Oh, there's an event. Sure, I want to go. And maybe the better answer is to say, thank you, but I'm going to be here in my home.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do something in a different way that is meaningful, impactful, and joyful in a way that I would have never thought, because I was on the gerbil and the treadmill.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. So some lighter questions for you, Tim. What time do you go to bed at night, normally?
You really want me to tell the public?
Yeah, tell the public.
I'm like a total nerd. I go to bed early. I might be in bed at 8 or 8:30, not asleep, but I'm there in bed, reading on my phone, on TV, just kind of decompressing. So, Jeff, if you call me at 9, I might not pick up.
That's really sad, Tim.
I know.
And what time do you wake up usually?
I'm up super early. I might be up and moving at 5 o'clock. I might, part of my starting the day is with meditation, prayer, and journaling, that I want to be doing that 6 or 6:30. And then that's how I start my day.
What is your favorite food?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Anything.
Any form of chocolate. What about like savory food?
Is it chocolate savory?
I guess it can't be if they're salty.
Define savory.
For dinner, if you had to choose your perfect dinner.
I already know. It would be salmon.
Okay.
Probably couscous, spinach, asparagus.
Okay.
The meal that we had recently together,
Okay.
courtesy of delivery and pickup from busboys.
Yeah. Andy Shalom, keep in mind, we're coming for you next as well.
Exactly.
What about, you have a dog.
I do.
Tiptoe.
I do.
That's great. And you have your bike, so you bike sometimes.
I biked over here this morning,
You biked
right?
this morning.
Right.
What would you say is your greatest fear?
Not making the best of all the gifts I've been given, in terms of time, in terms of talent, in terms of resources, in terms of relationships. I think about, honestly, the end of my life all the time. And at one point, working with a coach, I wrote my obituary. That sounded morbid, but it was transformational, because I think, well, where do I want it to end? Let me do that stuff now, so that way when I'm 125 on my deathbed, toasting my life with champagne, I can say I've lived the best way I for Tim, not Jeff, not others, not Andy, not Nance, not Carter, but the best for me.
I get it. Well, being you're my senior, I appreciate you contemplating your mortality.
Just by 6 months. and years.
And speaking of, where do you see yourself 6 years from now?
a great question. Here in Brookland, I have a studio in the Artist Walk. I see more classes there, more exhibits there, more events there. Really being a catalyst to bring more energy and presence, and so more of the community knows what's happening here right at the Brookland Metro, and that when you're thinking about, gee, what do I want to do this weekend, wherever you live, you're going to come and hang out in Brookland. You're going to support the artists that are there. You're going to buy flowers from the vendors. Maybe you'll go, another plug for Busboys, maybe you'll go to Busboys for dinner, and then maybe you'll go to a performance at Dance Place, which is right around the corner.
Dance Place, yes. I interviewed, who did I interview?
Christopher K. Morgan.
Christopher Morgan, which is, he's wonderful. I met him via Zoom through Tim. Love the relationship world stuff. Let's close it out with this, Tim. Tell our audience at home, which may be a total of 3 to 4 people.
Well, let's see. Your parents, my parents.
What if you were to have this moment to speak to the world? You're at the podium for the next 30 seconds. What words of inspiration would you give to this world?
Oh my gosh, that's so great. I just recently read all about Helen Keller and watched movies on her and all, that life can be a daring adventure, and that here is a woman, Helen Keller, who had all these obstacles and yet lived the greatest life and inspired others. And that's what I say, live to be the best you. Whatever you have in your heart, unleash it now with passion and energy, and do it today, because today may be the last gift that we have. And then then when we wake up tomorrow, we're gonna do the same. So amen, that's my sermon, Brother Jeff.
Amen, I love it, Tim. Thank you. And thank you for being our first guest on Breaking Bread in Brookland, in parentheses, having coffee, for our early morning coffee. So the thought here is to continue this on. There are so many interesting people in the city, to Tim's point, and I just think it'd be a great way for us to get to know those people and get to know, how they tick. And I think what better time to do it than now, when we're have time to actually reflect and get to know one another. And so hopefully you got to see some sides of Timothy Kime that you didn't know about prior to this interview. So if you have any thoughts on other guests that we should have, please let me know. But Tim, I want to thank you for enthusiastically agreeing to be the first person.
Only because our friendship depended on it.
It did. I threatened you. So thank you, and stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side of our COVID experience.
Cheers. Amen. Amen to that.
And you all stay safe as well. This is Breaking Bread at Brookland. Jeff Franco from my front porch, and Timothy Kime.